anonymity, and then they go on Twitter and they blow it by telling people they're just biased, usually left-wing hacks.
The Hugh Hewitt Show, weekday mornings at 6, right before Mike Gallagher at 9 on AM 1250. The Answer.
No ifs, ands, or buts. Well, no buts anyway. Not at Michigan State, and we're talking about B-U-T, not B-U-T-T. School's getting ready to start everywhere, and that means stupidity is ready to start on college campuses, which makes it fun on this radio show because we look for stupidity on college campuses, and it ain't hard to find. Anyway, at Michigan State, student employees had to take a mandatory course in how to deal with people on the job. There was an hour-long presentation, and it was called, are you ready? Inclusive and Culturally Sensitive Service to Residents and Guests. Now, you ready for some of the triggers that they're told not to use? By the way, trigger is a problem for me. I don't like that word. It triggers me. But anyway, how about no problem? That's one of the triggers. The person in charge was saying no problem is a trigger, and she used that word, trigger, which I did say is, that bothers me. It's a trigger for me. She said, quote, if I'm saying no problem, that's leading a customer to believe that they could be a problem or they could be an inconvenience to you, and we're just assuming that they're not, whatever that means. Now, I don't know, by the way, I don't know is also a trigger. I don't know. Like, I don't know. And, of course, yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, both triggers. Can't have them. Cannot say yes, sir, yes, ma'am, because, well, quote, not everybody identifies as sir or ma'am. I don't know how many college kids you refer to as sir or ma'am anyway, but, like if someone's parents come in and you see a father and a mother, you don't want to necessarily say ma'am to the mother and sir to the father because the mother might actually identify as a man and the father identify as a woman, and so he may want to be called ma'am, she may want to be called sir. And if you think there's something wrong with that, of course, there's something wrong with you. Now, this, of course, is to accommodate transgender students, which, based on the estimate that I think it's 0.05% of the people on the planet are transgender, so 0.05% of students could be transgender. And there are 53,000 kids on the Michigan State campus, at least that's how many are enrolled there. Michigan State University recommends changing the English language in order to accommodate 300 people. That's what would 0.05% of whatever the 55,000 would be. I think it's 300. And they might just have a mental disorder, by the way, but you want to accommodate them, and everybody on campus, 53,000, well, make it 52,700 students have to change their pronouns because of the 300, maybe 300 transgender students. But this all makes total sense. That's college these days. In our second half hour, we're going to talk to a woman who says Republicans need to stop supporting colleges, and she has plenty of reasons why. But coming up next, a guy was here several weeks ago, actually, the day before he testified in front of the Senate on how much Google could have affected the 2016 election and how they could affect millions of votes in 2020. President Trump quoted his testimony yesterday, and then Mrs. William Clinton trashed Donald Trump for quoting what she said was a bogus study, a debunked study. I'm talking about Dr. Robert Epstein, who responded to Mrs. Clinton's tweet by saying that she lied about his study and went on a Twitter tirade to support his study. I did a Google search a little while ago for Robert Epstein, Trump, Clinton, Google, and just about every story cited that I linked to was cited with Mrs. Clinton, so that shouldn't surprise anybody. When we come back, we'll get the story from Robert Epstein himself, who, by the way, is a liberal who voted for Mrs. Clinton in 2016. Stick around. If you're an employer, a business owner, if you have 5 to 100 employees, listen up. The cost of doing business continues to skyrocket, strangling your HR department with more regulations, administrative duties, and liability than ever. I'm John Steigerwald. Your health plan's a big part of that cost. Another year, another 10% rate hike, another $1,000 increase on your deductible, another hospital or doctor you can't go to because they're not in the network. Isn't it time for a change? Well, stop the insanity and call Marley Financial, the most innovative agency in the industry. Put an end to the annual increase. Give your employees a national network that all hospitals accept and reduce your monthly premiums by 20 to 30%. It doesn't matter when your renewal is. Marley can help today. Call 724-884-1496. Marley Financial, 724-884-1496. 724-884-1496.
Imagine doing one thing that gives you an entirely different perspective about your place in the world. Think it would be worth it? Dennis Prager here, inviting you to join me for a 10-day Stand with Israel tour, a tour through the land of Israel in December 2019. Come with me to get firsthand insight into Israel's fascinating past and promising future. Walk the ancient temple steps, sail on the Sea of Galilee, and so many more unforgettable moments. Return home inspired, renewed, and empowered. If you've ever dreamed of seeing Israel, this is your opportunity. With expert guides and important lectures at key sites, we'll be together in the comfort and safety of luxurious accommodations the whole time. Join me for a life-changing adventure to give you a renewed sense of purpose.
Get more details about the trip or sign up now to join Mike Gallagher and Dennis Prager on the Stand with Israel tour by going to theanswerpgh.com/Israel. That's theanswerpgh.com/Israel.
What is a warrior? At Portersville Christian School, a warrior is more than a team name. Here, at their fully accredited K through 12th grade Christian school, just 15 minutes north of Cranberry, a warrior is taught to serve, to passionately model the love of Christ toward neighbor, community, and world. A warrior is challenged to learn as they develop a strong work ethic, achieve academic excellence, and cultivate a lifelong love of learning. And a warrior is trained to lead through Christian character and integrity so they can impact the world for Christ by their example wherever God calls them. So, are you a warrior? Discover Portersville Christian School, a fully accredited K through 12th grade Christian school just 15 minutes north of Cranberry, where warriors are made. At ourpcs.org. That's OURPCS.org.
You started your business with nothing but a great big idea. They told you it couldn't be done, but that just made you work harder to prove them wrong. Now look at you, ready to take on the world. Speed Pro Pittsburgh South gets where you're coming from. When they said they wanted to create great big graphics for great big ideas like yours in less time than anyone else, they were told it couldn't be done. Speed Pro Pittsburgh South just smiled and said, "Oh yeah? Watch us." When you need a large format printing partner who can provide high quality visual graphics in stunning detail, from trade show displays to outdoor signs, 3M brand vehicle wrap for your fleet, to window graphics, banners, and decals, Speed Pro Pittsburgh South can handle most jobs in 2 days or less, and can roll with last minute change-ups without breaking a sweat. Who says it can't be done? For a free quote, visit speedpropghsouth.com.
This is the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250 and FM 92.5. The Answer.
Well, several weeks ago, we had Dr. Robert Epstein on as a guest. It was the day before he was scheduled to testify before the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution. He was there to talk about Google. He was here on the show, actually, to talk about Google and how it can or has or might influence the presidential election, and that's what he testified to several weeks ago. Dr. Epstein is a senior research psychologist at the American Institute for Behavioral Research and Technology. He's back in the news today, and we're trying to reach him right now. He's scheduled to be on the show right now. Actually, we're efforting, as they say in radio, to get him on. So it all started with Donald Trump yesterday tweeting this: "Wow, report just out. Google manipulated from 2.6 million to 16 million votes for Hillary Clinton in 2016 election. This was put out by a Clinton supporter, not a Trump supporter. Google should be sued. My victory was even bigger than thought." That's and then he references Judicial Watch. But that was then followed by this tweet from Hillary Clinton. "The debunked study that you're referring to was based on 21 undecided voters. For context, That's about half the number of people associated with your campaign who have been indicted. Little humor there from Hillary. And so that got Dr. Epstein's attention. The word debunked, I think, is what set him off a little bit. He did not like the fact that Hillary said that the study was debunked. So he says, "Sorry, Hillary, I'm a fan, so I really hate correcting you, but to my knowledge, no credible authority has ever debunked either my 2016 and 2018 election monitoring projects or my controlled studies on internet influence." So that's where the Twitter battle started, and he started tweeting all over the place. He says, "I'm a big Hillary supporter, but my 2016 monitoring findings were based on an analysis of 13,207 election-related searches, along with the 98,044 web pages to which the search results linked. The pro-Hillary bias was significant at the .001 level." I don't know what that means. But so it went back and forth, and that's where Robert Epstein was, and that's why we wanted to get him on the show today. Some other tweets from Robert Epstein on the subject. Hillary Clinton, whom I have strongly supported for many years, told blatant lies about me today. As a result, I have been subjected to widespread condemnation by mainstream media. I'm going to fight this. And then he tweeted, "I know you're in Google's pocket, but for the sake of our democracy, I urge you listen to my recent congressional testimony and to scan the 58 essays and conference papers I list at the end of my testimony. If my work has been debunked, why was it included in a volume just published by Oxford University? Why have I been invited to speak about it at prestigious venues worldwide, including Stanford and Yale Law School, and where both you and Bill went? If you look at it carefully, you will find that it adheres to the very highest standards of scientific integrity. You will also conclude, I believe, that Google poses a serious threat to the free and fair election and to human autonomy." That's how Epstein responded to Hillary Clinton, saying that his study was debunked. So we're hoping to get Dr. Robert Epstein on. By the way, you can check out his, I guess it's going to be his rebuttal to all this, and maybe a concise reading of what exactly he found out about Google at mygoogleresearch.com. And he is here now. Dr. Epstein, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Did it start with President Trump quoting your study, and did he quote it correctly?
It started with President Trump. Mm-hmm. He made a couple of minor errors, and then things went completely nuts when Hillary Clinton, my hero, replied to him in a way that I think is absolutely shameful. So I can tell you first about the Trump tweet, but of course the real meat here is what Hillary did.
Yeah, I just read the Donald Trump tweet. I'll do it again. Wow, report just out. Google manipulated from 2.6 million to 16 million votes for Hillary Clinton in 2016 election. This was put out by a Clinton supporter, not a Trump supporter. Google should be sued. My victory was even bigger than thought. That's what the president said.
Right. So there's two little problems there. One is I never said to Congress or anyone else that Google manipulated the 2016 election. What I said was that I measured, having collected 13,207 searches, having preserved those election-related searches, and the 98,000 web pages to which the search results linked, that based on this massive amount of data, I found a substantial pro-Hillary Clinton bias in Google search results, right? I don't know where the bias came from, but it was definitely big. And that level of bias was enough to shift among undecided voters between 2.6 and 10.4 million votes. So where he got 16 million from, I don't know.
And then I'll give you her response, which you can probably repeat verbatim by now. The debunked study you're referring to was based on 21 undecided voters. For context, that's about half the number of people associated with your campaign who have been indicted. That was her response. Right.
See, you've just sent chills throughout my whole body. Yes. So, I've been an admirer of the Clintons for decades. Literally, I have a signed letter from Bill Clinton up on my wall over my desk. So, I don't even know what to tell you. My scientific research it meets the very, very highest standards of scientific integrity. And the monitoring projects I've done, those are proof of concept projects. That's not scientific research. That's me taking the initiative and building what the world desperately needs, which are systems that monitor what the big tech companies are showing them, and then looking for shenanigans, looking for manipulations, looking for bias. So how can that be debunked? I've set up the system, or I haven't. Well, I did successfully in 2016 set up such a system. I didn't do my analysis based on 21 voters. That's absurd. My analysis was based on a massive amount of data, over 13,000 searches, which were being fed to me through 95 different field agents spread around the country. And that's how you do this kind of research. Did I need more than 95 people? No, it turns out, because the statistics we got showed that the bias was significant at the 0.001 level. That means the chances that bias was occurring by chance alone was less than 1 in 1,000. So adding more, channels of input would not have strengthened the conclusion at all.
Well, the media, and you mentioned that the mainstream media is attacking you. We're attacking you, and the pieces that I've seen on the air, they're all pointing to the 21. It's only 21 people, and that's what Hillary jumped all over, and that's what's out there right now. And you have, by the way, I want to mention it's mygoogleresearch.com. You have it all up there.
Yes, you can get to all my work through there, and you can also support my research through there. Glenn Beck this morning urged people to go to that link and donate funds to support this work, and a lot of people came through. But the point is, yes, these news stories are all over the world, and they're condemning me, and what they're saying is absolutely wrong. They're repeating information from Hillary's tweet, and she got that information from Google. Now, to really understand what's going on here, you have to understand that she's been dependent on Google not just for votes, but for money. Alphabet/Google was her biggest donor. Her chief technology officer, Stephanie Hannon, was a former Google executive. Eric Schmidt, the head of Google, offered in writing to run her entire tech campaign. He ended up setting up a secretive organization called The Groundwork, a technology company that existed for one purpose only, to put Hillary Clinton into office. She is in Google's pocket. Even so, how could she have said what she said? It's absurd. If my work has been debunked, why do I get invited to talk about this work at Stanford University, at the Polytechnic Museum in Moscow, the London School of Economics, the U.S. Congress just a few weeks ago, the Yale Law School, where both she and Bill went to law school? Even they invited me to talk about this work. And it's been debunked? It's not been debunked, not at all, ever.
Well, here's a headline from Slate, which is a very liberal publication, but it's a story written by April Glazer. It says 2.6. The big headline was 2.6 million reasons to keep yelling about bias. And then the subheadline is Why the President and the Right Have Latched Onto a Flimsy Study About Google Manipulating Votes. Have most of the responses from liberal outlets been similar to that?
Oh, they all have. New York Times, even one of my media heroes, even Anderson Cooper did a piece on this condemning my work without anyone apparently ever looking things up. I mean, if you look at my written testimony to Congress, for example, I list at the end of that testimony 58 articles and conference presentations with links, by the way, to all of them, showing the scientific basis for my work and describing, not just, how I've set up these monitoring systems, but the desperate need that we have, whether we know it or not, whether people know this or not, we have a desperate need to set up large-scale monitoring systems that look over people's shoulders, which is what I've done. This is with people's permission, of course, just like the Nielsen company does. We need monitoring systems that will keep an eye on these tech companies, and especially that will preserve what are called ephemeral experiences. Search results are ephemeral. They appear for a few seconds. They're generated on the fly. They impact you, then they disappear. And they're gone forever. They're not stored anywhere. You can't go back in time and figure out what people were shown. And people within the company, within Google, they know the power that ephemeral experiences have on people's opinions and voting preferences, because one of the recent leaks had one of these Googlers using that exact expression. How can we use ephemeral experiences to change people's views about Trump? They know they have this power. They exercise this power quite deliberately. And, what I set up in 2016 and even a larger system in 2018, I've captured a massive amount of data preserving ephemeral experiences so we could analyze what people were saying. And in 2020, my goal is to set up a much, much larger system. So we had 95 field agents in 24 states in 2016. 2018, we had more than 160 field agents. 2020, we're going to make sure we have at least 1,000, preferably much more than that. But, we're learning how to build these systems. And believe me, the entire world needs such systems to exist. There is no other way around the world anyone's going to understand why someone won or lost an election, why people are buying the products that they're buying, why people vote to exit the European Union. No one's ever going to really understand what's going on unless monitoring systems that are set up that preserve ephemeral experiences. And next year, we are planning to use AI, too, against companies like Google, fighting tech with tech. We're going to be using AI that's going to analyze the data so fast as it comes in that we'll be able to spot manipulations as they are occurring. And then we're going to report them.
Hey, Robert, I have like 30 seconds on a hard break, only 30 seconds. Real quick, I know you're going to be on Tucker Carlson tonight. How many liberal outlets are you likely to show up on? I only have like 20 seconds here.
0.
Doesn't surprise me. That's basically, that's just the way it is. Welcome to my world. I know you're a Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton supporter, but this is the stuff that conservatives have been complaining about for a long time. MyGoogleResearch.com.
I know. I'm devastated, and thank you for repeating that link, MyGoogleResearch.com. Thank you.
All right, see you later. Thanks. Robert Epstein.
Thanks.
Epstein, sorry.
Yeah, bye.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. In remarks to the AMVETS convention in Louisville, Kentucky today, President Trump says he's signing an executive order wiping out the student debts of some veterans.
To eliminate every penny of federal student loan debt owed by American veterans who are completely and permanently disabled.
President Trump says wounded veterans should not have to pay more.
Rather, it is America who owes our heroes a supreme debt of gratitude.
The administration says just half of the roughly 50,000 disabled veterans who are qualified to have their federal student loan debt forgiven have received the benefit because of a burdensome application process. Mr. Trump also is expected to headline a Louisville fundraiser for Republican Governor Matt Bevin's re-election effort. On Wall Street, the Dow by 240 points, the Nasdaq rose 71, the S&P advanced 24, oil down to $55.68 a barrel. This is SRN News.
It is a horrible scenario, but it happens. Dennis writes about his wife. She was diagnosed with leukemia. In fact, she's a 2-time survivor, and in the midst of all that, they ran up over $1 million in medical bills. Thankfully, they're MediShare members, and Dennis says they are so thankful for that, how others came together to meet their needs, and that's how so many MediShare members feel. This is not health insurance. It's different. You don't have to pay for things you don't believe in, and like Dennis found out, it just works. So if you join MediShare, not only do you save a lot of money, the typical family saves about $500 a month, but you know where your money's going each month. You're helping people, and if the time should come, they'll be helping and even praying for you. So yes, it's different, and as more than 400,000 people now know when it comes to healthcare costs, different is beautiful. Find out more. Call 844-45-BIBLE. That's 844-45-BIBLE. 844-45-BIBLE.
Joe Walsh has seen it all from the left.
Christine Quinn is her name, giving the Democrat view on abortion.
When a woman gets pregnant, that is not a human being inside of her. It's part of her body.
I've heard a lot. You heard her. It's not a human being. What is it then? A fish? What is it? A pineapple?
The Joe Walsh radio program. Weeknights at 9, right after Larry Elder at 7 on AM 1250. The Answer.
Are you worried that the next market downturn could rob you of your wealth and your security? Are you concerned that your lifetime may last longer than your life savings? You don't have to be. For over 30 years, Gary Hunt has advocated for strong retirement principles, helping families in Allegheny and Westmoreland generate more income while protecting their retirement funds. And Gary now offers retirement-minded savers and investors a free book so you can better understand what it takes to structure a more stable, secure, and confident retirement. Call Gary Hunt and request your copy of Income Allocation. 844-366-HUNT. That's 844-366-4868.
Homeowners love their Pella windows and doors, and we love how happy we made Susan from Sewickley.
I just have to tell you, this bay window is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's fantastic. It really is beautiful. I mean, beautiful.
Can we install some happiness for you? Right now, get 50% off installation or 18 months, no payments, no interest. Call for your free consultation. We'll come to you. 888-78-PELLA, PellaPittsburgh.com.
This is Chris Abernethy of Abernethy and Hagerman. You don't want the government deciding what happens to your estate or how much they will take. At Abernethy and Hagerman, estate administration is the heart and soul of our practice. We have the experience to help not only plan, but administer your estate properly, to protect your assets, minimize taxes, and ensure that your inheritance gets to the ones you love. Decide for yourself. Abernethy and Hagerman. Legal help that lasts a lifetime. Visit a-h.law.
Community Bank.
City Mission.
Number 1 Cochrane.
Highmark Stadium.
Peters Township Community Center.
Angelo's Restaurant.
What do all these businesses have in common?
Nello Construction.
Design and build with one company.
Nello Construction.
Full service construction from the ground up.
Renovation. Expansion.
Nello Construction. The choice for business.
See the projects.
Begin the journey
at nelloconstruction.com.
Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer.
We continue to see heavy delays on the Parkway East. You're crawling along outbound Forbes Avenue out to Edgewood, Swissvale. Inbound, slowing down Forbes Avenue to the Fort Pitt Tunnel. Parkway West, heavy outbound Roslyn Farms Road to Campbell's Run Road. Delays as well on the Parkway North. Outbound Cemetery Lane up to Union Avenue. Northbound 79, that's heavy from the Parkway North up to 910. That's a look at traffic. I'm Jenny Robinson.
AM 1250, The Answer. Weather.
Mostly cloudy and humid conditions are expected for tonight with a low of 65. Tomorrow will be a mainly cloudy and still humid day with a shower heavy thunderstorm in the area during the afternoon and evening hours. The high will be 77. Then tomorrow night a lingering shower thunderstorm around, especially early on. The low will be 57. For your Friday, a big change in the weather pattern. Less humid with some sunshine and a high of 75. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Derek Witt.
Warning, listening to this program may expose you to toxic masculinity. The John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250. The Answer.
top of the show, we talked about some major stupidity on another college campus. This time it was Michigan State. And as you know, there's no shortage of stupidity on college campuses these days. You would know, of course, if you listen to this show. Well, Inez Stepman is a senior policy analyst at the Independent Women's Forum. She wants to know why the stupid party, also known as the Republicans, keeps supporting it. She joins us now. Inez, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I could call this show Stupidity on Campus and probably do an hour on the subject every day.
Material.
Yeah, I could do an hour every day. I gave some examples at the top of the show, and you're asking why Republicans still support colleges, right?
Yeah, that's the question of a blog post I wrote this afternoon, because Republican voters have shown that they actually see through the scam. They understand that higher education in this country is not what it used to be. The value of a degree is not what it used to be. And they see these kinds of stories like you've just been talking about across the country. They see this sort of very left-wing ridiculousness coming out of universities. They correctly identify that academia is the source for a lot of the sort of left-wing concepts that we're now having these culture wars over in the body politic. And they understand that. And that's why you see just in the last few years this massive drop-off in the number of Republicans who think that universities are actually a positive thing for the country. Pew has been tracking this for years, and just in the last few years, they've really found a huge drop-off among Republicans. And my question is really, sorry, I'm in my apartment in the city. There's an ambulance going by. But my question is really why the Republican Party has not been following their voters on this. The Republican Party consistently votes to deliver more and more and more money for the universities, and no major proposals have actually ever proposed cutting it in the last several years, because they still assume that universities are an unalloyed source of good.
Yeah, and you, according to numbers you cite in your piece, it's not just Republicans either who think colleges are not doing a good job. Only half, according to that Pew Research, say that it's having a positive. Colleges are having a positive effect. A little over half of all people, not just Republicans.
That's right, but that drop off from about 65% of people saying they have a positive effect is largely driven by Republicans. So this is something that Democrats and Republicans used to be able to more or less agree on. You had somewhere around 55, still over half of Republicans just a few years ago approving of the universities, and Democrats right around 2/3. Democrats are still at that 2/3, but Republicans have dropped down all the way to 1/3. So 2 in 3 Republicans do not think colleges are a force for positive in the country. And so that's where that statistic for overall adults is coming from. It's coming from Republicans and independents. Democrats still, unsurprisingly, do have positive views of our universities. But again, it doesn't make any sense for the Republican Party to be okay with massively subsidizing universities at the expense of their voters.
Now, how is the government and therefore the Republican Party, in effect, also, how is the government massively subsidizing the colleges?
So in a few different ways. So first of all, there are the direct grants. These are research grants and other kinds of grants the government sends out to universities. That's over $75 billion alone. But the really big way in which we subsidize universities is by underwriting student loans through the government. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine if you're, a 17-year-old, you're graduating, you're looking to attend university next year, and you want to study feminist literature, let's say. Right. If you had to go into Wells Fargo to get a private loan for $160,000, which is about 4 years of the average private school tuition, if you went into Wells Fargo as a 17-year-old and said, I'd like $160,000, please, so that I can study feminist literature, the bank is going to look at that loan and they're going to say, I don't know if studying feminist literature is really going to give me a good chance of getting my money back, right? I'm not sure that that's a good investment. I'm not sure that you are going to be able to pay back my loan. So as a bank,
that ain't exactly for pre-med, That's
right. And
go ahead.
Right. And the problem is that the government doesn't have concerns like that, right? Mm-hmm. The government just gives the loan. They say college and university, going to university is always a good thing for every student. always a good thing because university is nebulously great or whatever, and it's good for society and it's good for you, and we're not going to take a hard-boiled look at what value the university is offering for any particular degree. So that's how the government has completely distorted the market here, has granted a huge boon to universities who don't have to prove, like everybody else, that their product is actually worth something to students. And in the end, students are hurt, right, when they graduate with degrees that don't have high earning power, and yet they graduate, for example, with six-figure loan debt. The university already got the money. It's my generation that ends up with the debt.
Right. Well, I just, in the last couple of days, today, as a matter of fact, I can't remember who it was, but a fairly well-known Republican, I wish I had it in front of me here, was on Twitter saying that, the Republicans better watch out because young people are really, they really like the idea of forgiving college debt. And if the young people show up to vote, they're going to vote for these people who are promising to eradicate it. How do Republicans fight that? I mean, it's an unbelievably stupid proposition, but that doesn't mean it won't be popular.
It does make the problem worse. And I think one of the most important ways that conservatives can fight back against this is point the finger where the blame really belongs, which is the universities. The universities that took advantage of this government largesse and raised their tuition year after year after year. There's very, very good evidence that these kinds of loans from the government have pushed up the cost of tuition so dramatically above inflation, right? So I think that one of the ways that we can start, fighting back against these good-sounding policies, right? Who doesn't want to have their debt canceled? That sounds great, right?
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to argue against when students really are suffering from high levels of debt. And I think the way to fight back against it, to push back against bad ideas who actually make this problem worse, like ideas from Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren about forgiving debt, is by saying, look, we know that this level of debt is a problem. We know that it's difficult for students. But if the government further intervenes, it's going to get worse. It's going to actually continue to push those costs up. What we need to do instead is start bringing that cost curve down. And we do that by not continuing to subsidize universities that are not proving the value of the degrees that they're offering to students. We shouldn't expect 17-year-olds to have better financial sense than U.S. Congress. But
Right.
That's what our policy on universities is right now.
But the problem is that Bernie and most of the other lunatics running for the Democratic nomination are making up for the loans by offering free college. So you don't have to pay your loan, and then everybody else from here on in will go for free. How do you fight that?
So first of all, as you and I both know, there's no such thing as free.
No.
That means the universities will continue to cost someone, and that someone that they're going to cost are the 2/3 of Americans who do not have a college degree.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a fair question to ask to Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Why do you think it's fair to tax an auto mechanic making $66,000 a year to subsidize the women's studies degree of somebody who came from a wealthy family who's going to Harvard? Right? This is an incredibly regressive idea, actually. The majority of student debt is actually held by middle class, upper middle class, and even top tier, top 1/5 quintile income level folks. That the folks with these kind of eye-popping amount of debt are, in fact, it is a problem, but they are, in fact, coming from wealthier families than average. It is completely unfair and regressive to tax the guy who did not go to college for whatever reason, in some cases, made a very hard-headed decision to not take out that debt and instead to pursue a trade, to tax that guy to pay off the women's studies degree for someone, for example, from my hometown of Palo Alto, is ridiculous and completely unfair.
The way I look at something like that, it's a great example of a mechanic making $65,000 a year. How much success do you think it would have if this guy on Friday got his paycheck and it was like $20 less? And he went into the boss and he said, "Hey, listen, my paycheck, I know it's only $20, but what happened here? What I lost $20 there somewhere. Oh, yeah. We're sponsoring a young girl who down the street who can't afford to go to college, and that's going to pay for her to study feminist literature for the next 4 years. But you don't have any choice in it. We're just going to take it out, and I'm sure you don't mind. That's what the government is asking you to do. That's
exactly what these kinds of programs would do. They would pay for, and again, The people making out best in these kinds of free, quote unquote, free college schemes are the universities. Now they really have no reason to drop their costs, right? Now they're just billing the government directly. They're sort of concerned about the debt burden because their students are concerned about it. If they're just billing the government directly, they have absolutely no incentive to control costs. College will continue to rise in price, and the taxpayer will have a bigger and bigger bill. The problem here is that we've divorced universities from the consequences of the value of their degree. And fundamentally, it's not that the problems here are not going to change unless we force universities to actually offer a product that students are going to pay for and want to pay for because the value of that degree is going to outweigh the debt. We've seen that flip around in the last couple decades. And that's why we are so concerned about this debt problem, right? If it were the case that everyone was coming out of a four-year university and making six figures right after college, then having this debt burden wouldn't be a problem because you'd be able to pay it back. Unfortunately, students aren't coming out and getting great jobs, and that's largely because the universities don't really have to ensure that the degrees that they are giving out are actually worth what the students are paying for them because the government's underwriting it all.
We're talking to Inez Stepman. She's a senior policy analyst at the Independent Women's Forum. So based on the polling and the numbers you have in your piece today, it would seem like a good idea for more colleges to ditch this liberal insanity that's going on there, and it's becoming very much public these days, and more people know about the insanity. It would seem like it would make a good marketing sense to start going after Republicans who have lost the faith with more conservative programs and less insanity. What are the chances of that happening?
Very slim as long as we continue this policy. And that's the Republican Party, which you would think would be the objecting party here, right? Both for reasons of principle and fiscal responsibility and, for pure crass political reasons, right? It doesn't make any political sense for the Republican Party to subsidize the training camps for their ideological opponents. And that's exactly what universities have become. And so it's really it's a failure of political calculation on the part of the GOP. I think there are a lot of folks in the Republican Party who are elected in office who think, my university and my state that my grandfather went to and my father went to and I went to, that university isn't taken over by the left. That university is a great institution and we need to support it. That's just not the case. On average, there might be a few exceptions to this, and a lot of them don't take federal funding to begin with. But most universities are far left, and we know that from the data about professors and their political donations. We know that from the courses, and we know that every time a conservative speaker tries to visit one of these campuses, and there's an outright riot from students, often encouraged by faculty and administration. So it's kind of shocking to me that the Republican Party doesn't recognize its own political interests here. But I guess I shouldn't be shocked because the Republican Party, we do call it the stupid party for a reason.
Right. No,
but that's the solution here. It's really for the Republican Party, both for reasons of principle, right? Taxpayers should not be subsidizing that. As we mentioned before, this is taxing folks who are actually making less money than the average college graduate to pay for kids to go to college to make more money. So this is a regressive policy to begin with. We have very principled reasons to cut it off. And if the principled reasons weren't enough, it makes perfect political sense. But for some reason, there is no Republican who has proposed even freezing the amount of money that we send to universities. Not one.
It makes sense, Inez, but I'm trying to picture the Republicans being able to present this, frame it in a way that it would be presented fairly by the media and not turned into just the Republicans hate colleges and they're opposed to college education, which is the way it would be portrayed.
Well, I think that we need to stop being afraid of that. I think it's fair to say to universities, show us the value of a college education. You really haven't convinced us of that. And that's what these poll numbers show, right? So, yes, 2/3 of Democrats think it's still worth it. But only 1/3 of Republicans think that it's still worth it. And a lot of moderates are trending the way of Republicans, not just because of the political insanity that's coming out of the universities, but because of cost, because there are so many other options available online, because both parties, and they're responding to genuine interest from their voters, are interested in looking at alternatives to a four-year university, to trade school, right? To be able to, have alternative certification, to be able to go into what are sometimes well-paying jobs in the middle class or even upper middle class in terms of income. And I think we're waking up as a society, aside from our battles over sort of free speech or the politics on campus, we're waking up to the idea that maybe funneling everybody into a four-year university and having them take on an enormous amount of debt is not the best way to encourage all students to succeed. And so I think that Republicans actually have a golden opportunity here. Conservatives have a golden opportunity to tie the discussion about the value of university to the question. It is time to re-examine whether we should be heavily subsidizing universities at the expense of, for example, some of these other alternative options that might be more successful for a lot of students.
Well, Inez, I'm out of time, and I just want to let you know that if anybody in the audience is triggered by anything that you said, I'm not taking any responsibility for it, and I'm sending them after you. So just be aware of that, okay?
I'm aware of that. Send them my way.
All right. Thanks, Inez. Always good to have you on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
That's Inez Stepman, and we'll be right back. Miracle League of Moon's Mike McGoolick joins us. Mike, how's the new field house coming?
The building permit was issued. We have the majority of the earthwork done, and they should be pouring foundation pads in the restrooms over the next week or two.
Those restrooms are really going to make a big difference for athletes with special needs, aren't they?
The ability to be able to use a restroom has always been difficult. You see how little space there is or little accommodations are made for individuals with disabilities, but it's something that we can make a little bit easier for everybody.
From the field house to the ball field to the playground, it's really going to be state-of-the-art.
It'll be updated with ramping systems and different things so that individuals that have problems with their mobility will be able to get to the same spots that everyone else easily can get to.
And every dollar you give goes directly to the project.
Our board is funding all the administrative costs, so any donation from anyone goes directly to the construction of the field.
Let's make miracles happen. Give today at miraclesinmoon.org/donate. Sponsored by Robinson Town Center, a Zamias Properties entity.
Morning Bullets is asking for the public to respond to a nationwide poll that could help shape political policy in 2020. This is your chance to be heard by the decision makers all the way up the chain. Their question: should the federal government provide free health care to illegal immigrants? Yes or no? Visit TrumpsPulseOnAmerica.com to let your voice be heard before the decisions are made for you. Medical services are guaranteed by the Emergency Treatment and Active Labor Act and require hospitals to provide care regardless of citizenship, legal status, or ability to pay. The Federation for American Immigration Reform reported that medical expenditures for illegal immigrants was over $17 billion in 2017 alone. The decision is up for debate, and the policymakers want to hear what the public thinks. Should the federal government provide free health care to illegal immigrants? Yes or no? Go to TrumpsPulseOnAmerica.com now to vote. That's TrumpsPulseOnAmerica.com. TrumpsPulseOnAmerica.com. Be heard.
It's a staggering statistic. 1 in 8 women will develop invasive breast cancer during her life. New technology has revolutionized breast cancer treatment, giving women more treatment options than ever before. Dr. Charla Gale Patterson, breast surgeon.
Many women choose to have breast-conserving surgery, also known as a lumpectomy, but this can impact the cosmetic appearance of the breast. Newer oncoplastic surgery techniques minimize dimpling or other cosmetic changes to a woman's breast, helping her to look and feel like herself.
A new medical device called BioZorb helps minimize dimpling of the breast after doctors remove the cancerous lump, maintaining the natural shape of the breast.
BioZorb also helps with radiation targeting. Think of it as a GPS for breast cancer, helping radiation oncologists better target treatments to minimize the impact on the surrounding healthy tissue. It's also important for follow-up mammograms because the marker can help identify the site of the previous cancer, aiding with future imaging or medical procedures.
For more information, visit mybiozorb.com.
The Supreme Court confirmation process has been on the point of breakdown for 30 years, and it finally collapsed with the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh. I'm Molly Hemingway.
And I'm Carrie Severino. Our new book, Justice on Trial, The Kavanaugh Confirmation and the Future of the Supreme Court, tells the story of the process that Kavanaugh himself called a national disgrace and a circus.
The Supreme Court is the arbiter of America's most divisive disputes. The incentive to destroy Supreme Court nominees has become nearly irresistible. Our book, Justice on Trial, explores how that happened to Brett Kavanaugh and what we must do to prevent it from happening again.
With more than 100 interviews, including the president, dozens of senators and other officials, we uncovered shocking details, untold until now.
Will the next confirmation fight be even uglier than Kavanaugh's? Our new book, Justice on Trial, has the answer.
Justice on Trial, The Kavanaugh Confirmation and the Future of the Supreme Court is the explosive new bestseller by Molly Hemingway and Carrie Severino, published by Regnery. Get your copy now at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and wherever books are sold.
The John Steigerwald Show, AM 1250, The Answer.
Well, today is a big day. In case you missed it, the cast for this season's Dancing with the Stars was announced on Good Morning America. That's always a big deal for me. I like to have a bunch of people come over. We eat breakfast, and then we wait for the announcement of the cast. And everybody's excited today. But definitely Sean Spicer was announced as one of the cast members. He's the former press secretary for Donald Trump, and you can't have that on a show that's on ABC. So even the host, Tom Bergeron, even tweeted that he didn't like politically divisive bookings. So there's some controversy about Sean Spicer being on there. It shouldn't surprise anybody. But you know who else was going to be dancing this year? Who's a really bad dancer based on the way he used to dance before every game? Ray Lewis. Yeah. Ray Lewis is on. They may be out there. I haven't seen him, but I don't think there are too many complaints about Ray. Ray was involved in two people who were murdered on the street in Atlanta, blood all over the street, and he was charged. First, he was charged with being a part of the actual murder, but then he was charged with obstruction of justice, and he got off with a year's probation. He had a white sports jacket that was soaked in blood that nobody could find during the investigation. I'm hoping maybe he drags that out and wears that for the first episode of Dancing with the Stars. You know, makes his dance, his act a little bit edgy. Should be good for Ray Lewis. No controversy with him, though. See you tomorrow.
The John Steigerwald Show is a production of AM 1250, The Answer, and Salem Media Group.
Do you or your business have financial problems? Are you overwhelmed with debt? Then call me, attorney Dennis Spiro.